This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222. I'm Professor Michael Chapman. I'm a senior fertility specialist. I'm working with Life Fertility Sydney. I've been involved in the IVF area for far too long, probably, but anyway, for 40 years. So I've seen the whole advances that's brought more and more happy children into the world. So these podcasts are hopefully educational, and normally it's just me chatting, but tonight we're very pleased to have a guest with us. And this guest is Lee. She has had over a decade experience in infertility as a nurse and then a manager of a service in an IVF service, so she understands a lot about what patients go through. And uniquely what she has done now is set up a support service. So we all know that going through IVF is a very stressful situation. The research around the world over the last 20 years has really shown quite clearly that it's one of the great stress moments of people's lives, of knowing that you're going to go through something that, first of all, only has, in today's statistics, a 40% chance of success. So that's the first hurdle. It's likely, more than likely, that you're actually going to fail the first time you have an embryo transferred. And then you go through the cycle and everything looks fantastic. The monitoring's good. Everything's going really well. You go to the egg collection and there's 12 eggs, and the next day they're fertilized, and I'm going to be pregnant. There's no question I'm going to be pregnant. I've got all the numbers rolling in my direction. Comes to day 5 and there are 3 embryos there, and we put the first one back, and there's a period of waiting of 10 days. Am I not? Am I not? And as I said to start with, 60% of the time, unfortunately, it's going to be a negative pregnancy test. Obviously, after those sorts of hits around the head, picking people up from that, the clinics are good, some better than others, in terms of providing the support during that time. But what Natalie has just on is the support that isn't available, the support after hours, the support after a failed cycle. Initially a telephone service, and then she was telling me earlier she'll even come and visit at home if you're needle phobic. So let's introduce Natalie, and we're going to have a little chat about what she sees as the big hurdles for women going through a fertility journey.
Yeah.
Natalie.
Thanks, Prof. So I've worked, as Michael was saying, in the fertility industry for over a decade now, both in the public and the private fertility sectors. And I started noticing something quite consistently. So no matter which clinic I worked in, patients were often facing the same challenges. So it's not necessarily inside the clinic, but once they got home. Because let's face it, fertility treatment doesn't just happen during those key appointment times, or nursing appointments for that matter. It follows you home. It lives in the early morning in the blood test before you go to work, the medications. Because it follows you home. So it lives in the early mornings in the blood test before work, the medication alarms going off late at night, perhaps to administer your trigger medication, the kitchen bench covered in medications, instructions, syringes, and questions that you never really expected to have, let's face it, because who's a medication expert or injection expert the first time just having their fertility consult as well? There's always the waiting, the uncertainty, and the wondering whether a symptom is normal. And then there's the emotional balancing act between the hope, fear, optimism, and exhaustion. And for many patients, that can be the most challenging parts of the treatment itself too. The reality is that fertility clinics do provide exceptional medical care, and I've seen that firsthand throughout my career. But appointments only make up that small part of the overall experience. The fertility journey still continues long after the patient walks out of that clinic door. And that's where Australia IVF Concierge came from. I didn't start this business because I thought patients needed more treatment. I started it because I believed patients needed more support. And the most common reason patients contacted me is mainly because they need just that extra level of support, reassurance, and confidence. Sometimes that might be through practical support with the injections themselves, the medication, a recovery after procedure, or navigating treatment whilst trying to balance work, family, and everyday life. Sometimes they're travelling for treatment, and sometimes they're doing treatment on their own. Sometimes they're simply just overwhelmed and looking for someone who understands the process and can guide them through it. What many patients don't realise is that a home visit, as Prof was saying, often becomes much more than the task itself. If I'm visiting a patient, for example, to administer an injection, I also use that as an opportunity to check in with them. How are they coping? Physically? Emotionally? Do they have any questions about their current treatment cycle? Are they experiencing any side effects that they're concerned about? Or is there anything that they're actually unsure about that we can perhaps talk through together to give that extra support and guidance? Often patients are carrying questions or worries that they haven't had the opportunity to discuss in that particular moment. And having an experienced fertility nurse in their home allows for that conversation to happen in a much more relaxed and supportive environment. Sometimes the most valuable part isn't the actual injection itself. It's the reassurance, education, and confidence that patients leave with afterwards. And what I've learned throughout my career is that patients may not remember every appointment or every medication dose, but they do remember how they felt supported during one of the most vulnerable periods of their lives. And that's really where the heart of IVF Concierge came from. We're not necessarily replacing the clinic, we're simply providing an extension of that clinical care.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it is great. It's when we met only just recently, and I thought that this is something that is going to be useful for a significant group of our patients.
Yeah.
Because we see patients who we know are going to be stressed throughout. They're the ones who are making phone calls to the clinic, often waiting to get a response and want our questions answered.
And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website www.theivfjourney.com and select IVF Journey podcast from the navigation menu.